Welcome to Lawyers Without Billboards, where we break down family law and other areas of the law. No gimmicks, no legal jargon, just real, unfiltered talk from real lawyers. Join your hosts, Steve, Patty, Jimmy, and Alexa, partners at Shewmaker Lewis, a law firm based in Atlanta, Georgia. Every episode, they tackle the legal questions that matter most: divorce, custody, child support, alimony, and everything in between. They'll pull back the curtain to give you real insights on what happens inside the courtroom and beyond.
All right. Take it away, Alexa.
Hey, wait a second before we get into stuff.
Well, you going to welcome us back to
Yeah, welcome back to Shewmaker Lewis, Lawyers Without Billboards. Here we are. Hey, what have we been up to lately as a firm? Actually, let me give you a trigger word and you tell me. Most people don't know about Alexa. I'm going to tell you about Alexa. Alexa is a Disney child, isn't that right?
100% true.
How many times
I'm a Disney adult at
How
this
many
point.
times have you been? Well, you're always a child at heart, right?
Fair point.
How many times have you been to the Disney World?
I've been every year since I was 2, at least one time, and I am 37. So
Now
lots of times.
You've been to Disneyland.
I've been to Disneyland once.
And Disney World a bunch of times.
Disney World a bunch of times.
Have you been to Disney Aulani in Hawaii?
No, but I've been to Disneyland Paris.
See, we've been to Disneyland Aulani, and you need to go with us sometime.
Listen,
right.
Let's make it happen.
Have you been to Disney Cruise?
Yes.
Yeah. That's a good
Yes,
time.
I have.
That's a
No,
good
Disney
time.
Cruise is fantastic.
I know, I've
They're
done it.
highly
I've done
recommended.
it. So you're a Disney girl. When's your next Disney trip, Alexa?
Today, Steve.
Today. But we're in Peachtree Corners, Georgia.
Currently.
Right. But so today you're going to go to Disney World.
Correct.
Okay. Who are you taking? What, you taking Jimmy the boy toy?
No, just my daddy.
Your dad, Tucker.
Tucker.
Tucker, who's not from Tucker.
Correct.
But he's a cool dude
He should be
anyway.
from
He's the
Tucker.
coolest.
I mean,
He is a cool
how
dude.
cool would that be if Tucker moved to
Tucker
Tucker?
Tucker moved to Tucker, or Tucker lived in Tucker, or Tucker was from Tucker.
Right. So here we are,
a lot of
Shewmaker
Tuckers.
Lewis, getting back to family law. I just clicked my pen. Don't click pens during my podcast. I'm serious. If you click pens during my podcast, I will kill you. Don't click pens in my podcast. All right. So what's our topic for today, y'all?
Today we're going to talk about the grounds for divorce.
The hell, Patty?
Don't stop clicking your pen.
Stop clicking your pen, you evil human being. Okay, what's up, guys?
Yeah, I mean, clicking your pen is right there with child molestation. I'm just saying.
It's
Jesus.
Okay, all right. So what's the
That's a
topic
heck
for
of an
today?
offense.
Grounds for
Grounds
divorce?
for divorce.
All right.
Grounds for divorce. Although I was expecting you to throw in some type of dad joke, but if we can move past that already, then
let's stop there with this. It's not even a sidebar. I don't think that I have the volume of dad jokes to sustain this for long, which means I'm going to, no, hear me out. Please hear me out, baby.
So we're going to use this sparingly then.
I would be going to the internet, the interwebs, the intercobs, and I would be looking for dad jokes. I'd just be repeating what someone else wrote. But you know what? I also don't remember jokes. But what do I do? What do I excel at? I tell funny stories about my life. So I thought maybe I would turn the dad joke thing on its head and just tell funny stories about me being a dad.
No, you got to tell the bacon
They
tree.
got to be short
You
stories.
got to tell the bacon tree.
Okay, I'm gonna tell the bacon tree on the next podcast.
Okay,
but let
sounds
me
good.
tell you
Stay
this.
tuned for the bacon tree.
But wait,
joke.
no, I'm gonna give you a short one. My daughter, Molly, who's hopefully listening and will be a guest one day, not a month ago, I was driving her to school, or she might have been driving me because she's got a permit. And we go up to the corner
Just
cup
so
in
scary
Tucker.
for me.
We go up. I know. We go up to the corner cup in Tucker where she gets out and pretends she doesn't know me. Okay. But on the way there, I realize I have forgotten my wallet at home. But I want to get a cup of coffee, and I don't have a line of credit at the corner cup. So I looked at my daughter and I said, "Hey,
You should.
I've-
As much as you go to the corner cup, you really should have a line of credit.
You ain't
should
wrong.
be like-
Probably should have
you
a drink named after you.
You
at
should
this
be able to
point.
go in and be like, hey, just put it on my tab.
Right.
Right. But here's the deal. So we're driving there. We're driving up La Vista Road in Tucker. I can see the corner cup. And I say to my daughter, who's known to carry some cash, I said, "Hey, Molly, I forgot my wallet at home. I need some money for coffee." And she's like, "Uh-huh." And I said, "How much do you have?" And my daughter, Molly Shewmaker's like, "No. How much do you need?" Can you believe that? I brought her home from the hospital on the day she was born. You know, I carried her all around the earth on my shoulders, and she goes, "No. How much do you need?"
How much interest did she charge you?
Well, you're getting ahead of me. So she gave me $20, and I said, "But no points on this." And she said, "Well, we'll see tonight." All right, so I don't think I'm going to tell dad jokes, maybe the occasional one, but I'm going to tell funny stories about what I do as a dad.
Fair.
Definitely next time, bacon tree.
Bacon tree, next on the next episode. Let me write it down.
Bacon
Tree.
tree.
All right.
B-A-C-O-N.
Come on, somebody who did some study and preparation for this
That would be
podcast,
like-
take
Oh,
it
that
away.
would be me on this one. Okay, so do you guys know how many grounds for divorce there are in the state of Georgia?
13.
Heyo. All right, and how many of those are fault grounds?
12.
All right. So what does that leave the last one?
No fault.
All right. What does that mean?
Means no one's at fault.
Whoa. Stop.
Means I don't like you
Jimmy,
anymore.
Jimmy, does this mean in the history of matrimonial law in the state of Georgia, one of the oldest states in the country, one of the original 13 colonies, does that mean that you couldn't just get a divorce willy-nilly, but once upon a time you had to give a really good reason to break up a marriage?
Once upon a time, you did have to give a really good reason, that being one of the prior 12. Fault grounds.
Do any of you know what year it was that Georgia got no fault divorce?
It was before I was born.
Yeah, because candidly, I'm not sure. Do you know?
Off the top of my head, no.
Oh.
Well,
Don't
I'll tell
know.
you, the section of the statute that I printed does not tell you. So,
I'm sure if you go back far enough.
oh yeah, but I didn't print the whole thing. I printed the relevant information for our purposes
How
today.
many times do you guys have cases that people allege fault grounds for divorce?
You're getting so far ahead of me right now,
Here, I had one the other day where they wanted to argue something other than
Oh, yeah?
irretrievably broken, and the judge was just kind of like, why are we doing this?
Which one?
Cruelty.
Oh,
And the judge was like, really? Why are we doing this?
yeah.
in fact, I think you told me the judge said, I understand I can consider this. I don't know why you think I will.
Right.
Yeah, that was-
Right. Because
that was effectively what was said.
I mean,
You
I
know,
don't even know why we even do
as
fault
you
divorce.
guys
I feel
are-
adultery is one that we do.
As
a
you
lot.
guys are droning on and on, I went to the interwebs
Oh,
again.
you're going to tell us the year.
Is your
No, I
mustache
went to
upside
AI
down?
and I couldn't even find it.
Really?
So yeah,
Not even AI knows.
I know.
How about that?
I think your mustache is upside down.
No, it's not. No, it's not.
No, it's not.
No, it's
That's
not.
good.
Sure?
No,
You-
'cause it's-
you intended to be flared
Yeah.
up?
Yeah.
Yeah, it
Yeah, I
adds
got a
it's
lot of
pizzazz
flair.
right there. It adds a little pizzazz.
You don't have any flair. Okay, you are flairless.
You don't have any flair on today.
If Ric Flair saw you, he would be sad.
No,
would
if
be
Ric
the
Flair
saddest
saw me,
woo
he would
ever.
absolutely say, woo!
It'd be
No.
the saddest woo ever. You have no flair.
Okay.
All right, back on topic, back on
Because some of
topic.
these are pretty funny.
No, they are pretty funny. Well, and they're about to be even funnier because I have translated them into Shakespearean, and Jimmy is going to do us the honor of reading them in Shakespearean, and then I will translate to English.
Just last night I was saying that you were a thespian stuck in a man's body. Let's hear it. Come on, thespian.
I don't think I've ever been accused of that.
You're a
sure you go to the
lipstick
right
thespian. You are a lipstick thespian if I've ever seen one.
Yeah,
In fact,
I mean,
there you
in fact,
go.
I challenge our colleagues to walk up to you in the courthouse and go, "You, Jimmy Lewis, are a lipstick thespian."
because if you read the statute, these actually do sound like they're written in Old English.
They do until you translate them to Shakespearean, and you're like, no, they actually sound a little more modern than you'd think.
I mean, the first one, intermarriage by persons within the prohibitive degrees of consanguinity. You can't even say that word.
Consanguinity?
Yeah, or affinity.
No, Alexa hit the nail on the head. She did a good job
I
with
can-
that.
Yeah, all right. Well, I want to hear in Old English.
All right, let's
In
hear it.
Shakespearean.
Because Alexa's married to a thespian.
I practice these at home.
Well, I didn't.
No, well,
Great.
Impotency at the Timoth of the featherbed.
you skipped a 3.
I know, dude.
I know, because we
Start
already...
with 1.
In Old English, man.
Into
kinda
marriage by
close.
persons within the did prohibit degrees of consanguinity
say
affinity. What,
All right.
Why am I doing this?
Okay,
That's
because
what I'm
it's
asking
supposed to be
myself right now.
entertaining, but you're struggling really bad. So
Okay,
intermarriage
it's-
of people within the prohibited degrees of
Don't marry-
consanguinity.
don't
Don't marry
marry-
your cousin. Don't marry your brother.
Okay, okay, all right. No, I'm going to skip ahead and then we're going to come back to this and keep going. But the skip ahead is that rarely do you ever hear about any of these.
Correct.
But I challenge one of you all to use one of these grounds soon in a divorce that you file on behalf of a client.
I have one pending.
How about
where-
impotency at the time of the marriage?
Oh
That's-
no, let me no.
I
I'll tell you
have
what.
one pending on
I'll-
adultery right now.
I'll give any of y'all money if you guys can file for divorce based on intermarriage by persons within the prohibitive degrees of consanguinity. Did I say it right?
You
you
did.
did, and
You did.
I want that case.
Yeah.
it's
Somebody bring me that case, please. I'll be happy
that's
to
a
file
little
it.
creepy. You know, speaking of which, did you know? And I just learned this past weekend. With family in town, we went to I guess it was a Bullock Hall up in Roswell.
Does this count as a
Went to what?
sidebar?
Yeah, it does count as
Damn.
Say it.
Bullock Hall. It's a
What is that?
It's a plantation house up in Roswell. The founders of Roswell moved from Savannah to Roswell to find Roswell.
Okay.
There's some connection with the Roosevelts. Teddy Roosevelt married
Somebody.
somebody in there. But did you know that Teddy Roosevelt married his fifth cousin?
I don't think that would have been in the
No.
prohibited degrees, so I think we're fine.
No, but that was, and
It's a little
actually,
gross, but-
no. And what's weird about it is his wife, her maiden name was Roosevelt.
Well, that made it easy for.
Right, she didn't have to change it.
Right?
She didn't have to go to the DMV.
Right.
Fix that.
Social Security.
Social Security.
This consanguinity thing bothers me because you're from southeast Nebraska. You are a daughter of the American Revolution.
Mm-hmm.
Your family goes way back to like pre-Civil War times in southeast
Yeah, because
Nebraska.
a Revolutionary War
And
was
I've
before the
never
Civil War.
known a gene pool where the eyes are so close together. I'm talking about all you and your brothers. I mean, it's weird.
You're from Alabama.
Alabama Stan. But the point is, in like 10,000 years, your family, those eyes are going to get so close together. You guys are going to be like one eyes. You guys are going to be cyclops.
Cyclops.
Yeah. But on you, it's cute.
Oh, well,
Yeah,
thanks.
for real. All right. Save myself there at the
Okay,
end.
all right,
See,
all
Jimmy,
right.
you got to know how to save yourself at the end. With
Number
your wife
2,
there.
hey, Patty, you could probably go on this one. You could
Mental-
probably go ahead and file a case right now
Mental
based on this one.
incapacity-
At the timeth of the featherbed.
Mental incapacity at the time of the featherbed, the marriage.
Mental incapacity at the timeth.
Are you
of the
referring to
featherbed.
me? Because, that whole year.
No, I'm saying that you could probably file for divorce
All right.
because I'm going to assume Steve was not.
that whole year before we
incapacitated.
got married, I was drunk.
Well, that's number 9.
Yeah,
Oh,
you're-
number
again,
9.
we're jumping
All right, so
ahead.
there's 13 of these. Let me put a question to y'all. How many of these do you routinely see used in Georgia?
One.
Adultery.
One.
Adultery,
Well,
cruel treatment,
Yeah.
and irreconcilable
Irreconcilable
differences.
differences,
Right,
yeah.
right.
No, but some of these are funny. The conviction, number 8, the conviction of either party for an offense involving moral
Moral turpitude.
turpitude, under which they say he in the statute, so they just automatically assume it's the man.
So women can do all sorts of crazy stuff.
Yeah, under which he is sentenced
They'll
to
do anyway.
imprisonment in a penal institution for a term of 2 years or longer.
We probably have some cases we could file that under, although I don't know what would be the point.
Yeah, when you can just do irreconcilable
Yeah, exactly.
differences.
Well, ain't
Although
that...
habitual intoxication, I guess, based on what you said, Steve could have filed that after the first year.
Yeah, right?
I could file it now. Anyway, I could file it after last night. No, the point is that whatever year it was, and I'll continue to endeavor to find the answer during this podcast, at a certain point in time, the legislature said we can make this a whole lot easier if we just say no harm, no foul. It ain't working out.
Well, but Georgia wasn't the first to do that.
No,
Georgia's probably the last or second to the last.
Georgia's
but-
really not the first to do anything.
But we
yeah.
also make it fairly easy because we don't have a requirement that people have to be separated for years at a time.
Oh,
before
you're
they
talking
can get
about like in
divorced.
North Carolina.
Well, like South
South
Carolina, you've got to
Carolina, too.
live separately for a year before
North
you can file for
Carolina's the
divorce.
same.
North Carolina's the same
Which
way.
is insane to me because how
Yep.
can people afford to live separately for a period of a year before they can get divorced?
Yeah, and I got divorced. A lot of people don't know this. Way back in the year of our Lord, 1996, in Killeen, Texas. And I swear, at the time, we had to be separated for 55 days.
It's an odd number.
Yeah, it
I know. Like, how do you come up with that? Like, you're out there on the range riding your cow, thinking about the
55.
Comanches coming and attacking
Not
you.
quite 2 months.
And someone just came up with 55 days.
Yeah,
I
that's
don't
a
know.
weird number.
I don't know. I know a lot of Texas lawyers. I ought to call one
Yeah,
and go,
right? I
what
don't
is
know.
this?
Yeah,
man?
someone help me understand.
Yeah, explain this to me there, muchacho.
Yeah. Some of these, though, I mean, I can see being applicable to today. Number 12, habitual drug addiction. I mean, we have had those cases where.
Well, even incurable mental illness. I don't know about you guys, but I've had several cases lately where one of the parties has had some serious mental health problems that they're not treating. The problem is you've got to have a court of competent jurisdiction to determine that they're mentally ill.
Yeah, I mean, this. Yeah, I mean, if you read the statute, it's pretty involved.
Oh,
you
that's
know?
the longest one.
Yeah.
We need a 14th ground.
Which
My
is?
spouse won't stop clicking his pen.
No. The 14th
No?
ground. No.
Okay.
You know what the 14th ground needs to be?
Tell me.
My spouse watches our Netflix show in my absence.
Oh, and jumps ahead.
Yes.
It just got personal.
No, that
It just got
that's
personal.
grounds for more than divorce.
I mean, have an affair, do what you got to, have an affair, be habitually intoxicated, beat me, cruel
Okay.
treatment,
Deal with it, right.
but
So you're
don't
telling
watch
me,
a Netflix
you're
show
telling me
without
if you come home after taking our daughter to the horse farm and bring her back, and you walked in and I'm sitting on the couch with a stripper, that's okay. But if I'm sitting on
No,
the
I
couch,
didn't say-
I'm not done yet. But
Is
if
the
I'm
stripper sitting down? What are you paying her for?
well, okay, I'm
Sit
getting,
down on the
all
couch.
right,
Watching the
I'm
show
getting a
with
lap
you?
dance on the couch from a stripper. That's okay. But if our Netflix show is
if
playing
it's
in the
on
background,
in the background, you're fucked.
boom. Now,
Completely.
Okay,
okay,
I
you
didn't
can't be
say-
using that kind of language on the podcast.
I didn't say
We're going to have to put an E next to our podcast now.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't say that adultery is okay. I'm just saying that watching the Netflix show without me is worse.
So it's an aggravating factor.
There you
Thank
go.
you.
Okay. So
Thank
is that
you.
the only way I aggravate you?
No.
Stop clicking your pen.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh.
I'm gonna take his pen away.
All right, wait. So,
All right. So let's go back. Let's go back.
Go back.
So, all right.
And I'm still
gonna
looking.
read them.
I'm still looking on the interwebs
You're still not- I don't
for
know if
when
you're gonna
Georgia
find it.
adopted. I know.
All right, so we've got the intermarriage by people that are too closely related, the mental incapacity at the time of the marriage, impotency at the time of the marriage, force, menace, duress, or
wait.
fraud.
Let's go back to this impotency at the time of the marriage.
How do you prove that?
Yeah,
It's got to be word of
How do you
mouth.
prove
at
that
the
one?
time of the
Either
marriage.
word of mouth or a medical record. That's it.
And I'm sorry.
But a specific medical record that says you're impotent, or a specific medical record that you have some type of condition that would
would-
make you
yeah.
impotent.
Well, normally you would expect that Alexa comes in and says, "Judge, I want to divorce Jimmy because he was impotent at the time of the marriage."
that's incompetent.
And he says, "No." And Jimmy said, and Jimmy puts up the very novel and sophisticated legal defense of no. But Alexa says it, and it sounds convincing. That's option A. Option B is Alexa says that and brings in a medical report from Jimmy's physician prior to the date of marriage that shows he was examined for and treated for impotency.
Yeah, but I'm sorry. If you're a woman, I mean, and you really don't like your soon-to-be ex-husband,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, how much more insulting can you be
And
than to file,
emasculating.
than to file for divorce based on impotency at the time of the marriage?
Even
I mean,
if
that's
you-
just like,
Even if you can't prove
Whoa.
it,
I mean,
just
that's
to throw it
cruel.
out.
That's cruel treatment right there.
Even if you can't prove it up, that's almost funny.
It's
Like we
actually
put that in
possible.
there,
Just
and
'cause.
then we get to the final trial, bench trial with the judge, and the judge is like, "What are the grounds?" And we're like, "Well, judge, we'll just go with the reconcilable differences." That would be. I wonder.
We're willing to withdraw that
I
one.
wonder, could that backfire on you?
How?
I don't know. I'm gonna have to ask the judge.
I think it depends on the judge.
Yeah, I think it depends on if the judge has
Yeah.
any humor at all.
You know, at some point we're going to have to get some judges on here. Maybe some retired judges.
Maybe
they
some
feel,
retired
They
ones.
feel
Yeah.
they feel a little more free to speak their mind.
I actually walked
Yeah.
into Fulton County Courthouse. I'm not gonna say the name of the judge, and he said he blurted out in front of
Oh, it's a
everybody,
he.
Yeah.
"Mr. Shewmaker's
There it
here.
goes.
None of his jokes are funny." Judge actually said that.
Yeah.
And he's a friend of mine too. Can you believe
Yeah, he took judicial notice.
that? Rule 201.
That's
Bam.
There you go.
Judicial notice that your jokes are not funny.
All right. Oh, and by the way, let
we
me
just find it?
sidebar. Georgia adopted the no-fault ground, the 13th ground, the ground that we almost always use by default, in the year of our Lord, 1973. And thanks goes out to the Coleman Law Group, who put it on their website. I have no idea who these guys are.
We don't even know if they're right, but let's go
Well,
with
let's
it.
assume they're right. I'll keep checking, but the Coleman Legal Group has it on their webpage.
You know,
so.
1973 was a really special year.
Was
also
it?
not that long ago.
Because Patty was born.
But
There you
again,
go.
it wasn't that long ago. So.
Thank you, Alexa.
And this podcast is
You're
being
welcome.
taped in the year of our Lord 2025, so you can figure out how old Patty is on your own if you have basic mathematical skills.
39. I'll do the math for you.
You and Jimmy's grandma, 39.
All right.
Take off your shoes, Jimmy.
All right. So, here's another one. Number 4, force, menace, duress, or fraud in obtaining the marriage. Those are the shotgun weddings.
Yeah, those are the you better marry me because.
That's dad, forcing you down the aisle because you're pregnant.
Or, hey, pregnancy of the wife by a
no.
man other than the husband at the time of the marriage.
Number
At the time of the
5.
had that one.
Number
Yes, we
5.
have.
That one's it's not as uncommon as you think, but nobody files on
Well, I
that
was going to say it
ground.
happens all the time. It doesn't mean we ever file under that ground, but it happens all the
Yeah,
time.
and I want to make sure everybody caught that. Pregnancy of the wife by a man other than the husband at the time of the marriage, unknown to the husband.
So what if it's like a
So he thinks
lab
it's his kid.
insemination in vitro or something like that?
You mean on purpose or accidental? Meaning the wrong sperm.
What?
I have
Because-
no
okay,
idea what
There-
either one
there-
of
If
you
there's-
the
are
there
talking
is
parties
a
are
big-
participating
yeah.
in IVF prior to the marriage, and then they get pregnant, and then they get married, what if it's
a
on?
mess up at the lab?
What if it's a mess up at the lab of the wrong sperm? Now what?
Well,
There's an article in the newspaper a few
Uh,
weeks
A
ago.
woman gave
yeah.
birth to the wrong kid.
down in Savannah.
Well, the right kid, the wrong sperm donor.
Yeah. It was the
Yeah.
the wrong
yes.
embryo
Why do
was
you
The wrong
put
embryo,
in
that's
her.
what it
Every
There,
time you
that's
drop an F-bomb, a
Yeah.
Baptist
I
tunes
said-
out. Okay, you
Did I drop
can't
an
do
F-bomb?
that.
Wait.
I don't think I
did.
did.
Yes, you
Wait,
did.
were there
It
any
slipped, I'm
Baptists listening
sorry.
to begin with?
I don't know.
Jimmy's parents.
Oh, Jimmy. Oh, your parents. Oh, hey, have your parents listened to the episodes so far?
Well, my dad actually texted me this morning with
an idea.
with an article about AI and
We
people
really
using
need that
AI in
sidebar
divorce,
button, dude.
And
Yeah.
that this should be a podcast topic.
I'm really kind of disappointed because my mom hasn't even listened to any of them yet.
Oh, my dad has.
I know.
Yeah. Oh,
I don't think I'm the favorite child anymore. Maybe I
Anymore.
never
Were you
was.
ever?
I was going to say,
never
were you to
was.
begin with?
I
Anymore.
know, right? Maybe I'm
But
adopted.
Have your brothers and
No.
sisters listened?
Yeah.
Oh, well.
Hey, look.
At
At
least
least
two of my
you.
brothers and one of my
At least
Does your
you
mom
only
know
have two
how
brothers.
to access
At
it?
least you.
Both my brothers
There you go.
Okay.
and one of my sisters.
At least you wonder if you've fallen from grace. If you're me, you never had any doubt.
You were never there to begin with?
There you go.
Okay.
All right, back. All right, number 6, adultery in either of the parties
we
after
see that one.
marriage.
Now we get that a ton.
All
Yeah.
the time. Even if it happens, though, do we usually file under those grounds?
Well,
we
it
might
dep-
add it in there, but
It
we're not going
depends.
to.
It depends if you're pursuing a bar of alimony, which will be a separate podcast. If you're
Yep.
trying to bar the person seeking alimony, then you can demonstrate adultery was the breakup of the marriage.
Yep.
And then in that case, I think it is vital that you claim adultery as the basis. I don't think you
Yeah.
can sustain that claim without it.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, big time.
I agree.
Yeah.
So I think that's probably our most common one we will file as far as fault grounds.
I will say that I see cruel treatment a lot, and I will tell you, Steve Shewmaker personally doesn't like it unless I've got some really, really palpable evidence, like a recording or video, or I have a sustained temporary protective order or something like that.
Criminal charges.
But I will see it, and I hate to generalize. I got to be careful when I do it, but I see it occasionally. That some attorney will file cruel treatment, and it's just really the bickering of a marriage that's dissolved. And I'm just like, that's really kind of like weak.
Yeah. Well,
It
yeah.
makes me sad.
Because I mean, let's be honest. Cruel treatment under the statute, the statute says which shall consist of the willful infliction of pain, bodily or mental, upon the complaining party, such as reasonably justifies apprehension of danger to life, limb, or health. Cruel treatment's way overused.
Yeah.
It's not used that frequently, but when it's used, I agree with you. I think it's way frivolously used.
Yeah. I mean, marriage in and of itself is cruel treatment.
A lot of it is, you didn't fix me breakfast this morning, and I felt some pain.
I know I got a bagel.
Well, okay. Hey, for example, in the case I had recently where they were arguing that on cross-examination, said, okay, you're seeking a divorce based upon cruel treatment. You ever file a TPO? No.
Nope.
You ever called the police?
You never called the police, did you? No.
Nope.
Okay.
You got no pictures, you got no recordings,
Yeah.
you got whatever.
She nags the shit out of me.
Or you've got
Okay.
one recording and you only play a portion of it because the next little bit is you screaming back.
Yeah.
That's not really going to work.
Yeah.
All right.
Cool.
Willful and continued desertion by either of the parties for a term of 1 year. So just peacing out from there.
Bye, Felicia.
Who's
Peace out.
Felicia?
That was his first wife.
Yes.
Nice.
You know what? Actually, I have a lot of people ask me about this. Now they call it abandonment, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He abandoned the marriage, and I was like, he's been
Or
gone.
you separated.
He's been gone for a month.
Right.
I mean, that doesn't really quite rise to.
I
rise to the
actually
occasion.
have one now where the wife was peace out and basically left the guy with the kid and was not even there in the life for like 10 or more years, forever really, basically.
Yeah.
Now, we haven't filed for abandonment because, well, there's some, extenuating reasons, but just because you don't, and that's the other thing, just because you don't make that your grounds for divorce doesn't mean that you cannot argue the underlying conduct.
Sure.
So if you think it's on right on the fence of being abandonment or not, you can still argue the conduct.
Yeah, because conduct still matters when it comes to equitable division of property.
And it can, yeah.
Yeah, so and even with alimony, conduct matters.
Yeah.
So even if you don't claim it as the grounds for divorce, it still can come into play.
Yeah.
So have we hit all of the
Not
grounds?
quite. Not quite. We already talked
which
about.
one are we missing?
The habitual intoxication we didn't really talk about, but I think that one pretty much.
Well, Patty wants to gloss over that one
self-explanatory.
because she gets nervous. Just
Start
saying.
sweating.
The cruel treatment, the incurable mental illness, habitual drug addiction, which is interesting that they didn't just combine that one with the habitual intoxication. And then, of course, our no-fault grounds of the marriage is irretrievably broken. Interestingly enough, I have a case, or had a case recently resolved, where the parties alleged the marriage was irretrievably broken. They've been separated for quite some time, and recently found out that the parties have still been having sex, which unfortunately
I'm
could have
glad.
tossed.
I'm glad you brought that up because it doesn't really address. Well, it does address the irreconcilable differences because if you file for divorce and then there's post-filing sexual contact, that is considered what?
Reconciliation.
Reconciliation.
However-
Raise your hand if you've had a divorce that you had to dismiss or you insisted on a dismissal because of post-filing sexual contact. We all have.
I
I
had
have.
a case. Hold on. I had a case where the wife got pregnant.
Oh,
and it's like, okay, there's no denying that.
No denying that one.
Well, here, I had one a couple years ago, and this was in front of a judge in Gwinnett County, that during the final hearing, I was representing a husband, wife alleged that they had been having sex. And basically what it came down to was she had come over, kind of convinced him to have sex, and then was like, oh, hey, we have to dismiss the divorce now.
She was dressed provocatively.
Wait a second. Go ahead. Keep going.
Ultimately, the judge was like, Mr. Lewis, you know what we have to do now. And I said, unfortunately, Your Honor, yes, I do. But the first thing I did when I got back to the office was I started researching this, and there's a case that I was not prepared with this to talk about, that it was basically if one of the parties is doing it for other than honorable intentions.
Yeah, it's fraud.
It's fraud.
Yep. Yeah.
And so we basically got the dismissal reverse and...
Oh, so you presented that case to the judge subsequently.
I immediately filed a motion for reconsideration, and the court was like,
"Because it's not true
you were actually you were actually right because
true reconciliation."
Because no, she basically admitted that she was over there too.
Isn't there an attorney sitting at this table that actually counseled her client to do this?
Oh, Lord, we are not talking about that.
Wasn't me.
I know it wasn't me.
I told her to reconcile. I told her to reconcile with your husband. I said, go back to your husband and reconcile. And
did it work?
No, because she basically took me very literal.
Oh, geez.
And it wasn't reconciliation. It was her, and she goes and she does what Jimmy's opposing party did. And what she didn't realize was that her husband was recording her.
Oh, bad move.
Now that's illegal, isn't it?
Recording her? Well, that's a whole nother.
That's a whole nother podcast.
All right, we'll talk about that.
But hang on, let me go back to my case real fast.
Go ahead, go back to your case.
So come to find out, of course, this happens during mediation that this comes back
Wait,
out.
what are we talking about now?
My client and the other party having sex.
Yeah.
With the allegation, this is during mediation. I learned about this.
They're in sex during mediation?
Not physically during mediation,
Wow,
but 3 days prior.
amazing.
3 days prior was the last time.
I'm just going to say, your mediations are very different than mine.
Mine are really entertaining. What can I say?
Alexa's got
This is why we have to do them on Zoom now, apparently.
Is it an orgy or is it a mediation? What's an Alexa mediation?
Hey, now. Okay. All right. So come to find out, this was going on. This had happened about 4 days before mediation was the last time.
Oh, my God.
We've had this conversation because it had happened previously. We've had this conversation. She goes, well, yes, it happened. But before every single time I said, this isn't fixing anything. We are not getting back together. Okay, let's see if that'll work.
Did she have him sign an affidavit?
No, but we settled the whole case and everybody got divorced already, so it's fine.
Here's what I'm going to tell you.
I was like, get a boyfriend.
What the court doesn't know doesn't hurt them.
Are they still hooking up?
It wouldn't surprise me.
I actually had a client got caught having sex with his spouse or her spouse. I can't remember if it was a man or a woman. No, it was a guy. And they had sex, and then the other attorney calls me and says, we got to dismiss the case. And by the way, you can refile the case the next day, but you got to dismiss it.
As long as they stop having sex.
I tell my client, I said, it is alleged that you were having sex with your wife. And my client actually had the nerve to say to me, well, you didn't tell me I couldn't. Oh, God. So nowadays, I tell all my clients.
Usually you don't have to.
Well, yeah, usually you don't have to, because usually if you start to tell someone, they're like, don't worry.
Yeah, we're getting divorced.
But now I tell people I have to. I'm like, don't do this. And they're like, Shewmaker, you're an idiot. Why are you telling me this? Well, let me tell you a story. Because almost everything we do arises out of a story or something we didn't know, or something, the experience matters.
Yeah.
So, all right, so I know we've been going for a while. Go ahead.
That takes us right back into drug addiction and having to instruct a client.
Yeah,
no, you can't do cocaine.
Well, that's another story.
That was
we need a whole podcast about drugs and family law.
We do.
Absolutely.
We do.
Well,
and we're going to get there. But hey, how much time we got left?
Just a minute or so. But real quick, you guys have been in front of Judge Bodiford before he was off the Cobb County
Alan
bench.
Bodiford?
No. Alan Bodiford's in
No.
James Bodiford.
James Bodiford. Yes.
So
good
I had
judge,
a case
good
one
judge,
time,
good judge.
really, really, really early on, that the parties were having sex, and so we go to court, and we're in pretrial with the judge, and he looks at us and he goes, "So they're doing the big IT?" "Yeah, Judge, they are." He's like, "Oh, you know what I'm gonna have to do." "Yes, Judge, we understand." "Well, I want to talk to the parties." "Okay, Judge." So we all, he always made you come up to
everybody stands in a line in front of the bench.
First case of the day.
First case of the day. This was 8:30 because he always had the 8:30 calendar.
And he's talking, and you're 3 feet away, and he's talking to people in the back of the room.
He's talking to everybody. So he looks at these parties and he goes, "Here, you guys have been doing the big IT. I got to dismiss this divorce.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Judge.
The big IT.
Someone's got to pay
we'll refile
220.
tomorrow.
Someone's got to pay $220 more and file again.
And stop
All
doing
right. Well, if we're
the
getting
big
towards
IT.
the end, just a couple things. You know, one of my traditions, which we can sustain, is the hero of the week. Anybody want to know who I think is the hero of the week?
All right,
Sure.
This is the first time it's been an inanimate object, not a person. Well, it's a combination. The Okefenokee Swamp is the hero of the week.
Okefenokee will kill you.
Well, I was the
Yes.
hero of last week, but bringing it in for today.
The Okefenokee Swamp that Jimmy and I canoed for 3.5 days is between 500,000 and 700,000 acres, I think, or miles. I forget.
It's gotta be acres.
It's big.
It's gotta be
gotta
acres.
It's
They wouldn't
big.
make it
We
if
saw.
it were 5,000 miles, that would be.
We saw.
That would
It
be
is the largest
really large.
swamp, I believe, in the whole United States.
Probably.
Continental United States. It is actually a peat bog.
Because there's not a lot. There are not a lot of swamps west of the
And it's
Mississippi.
fascinating.
place I wanna
It's
go.
fascinating history. But the other hero of the week is attorney Steve Riley over in Lawrenceville.
yeah.
Steve's a good guy. He invited us and Tuscan, one of our associates, and Jimmy and I went along with Steve and his brother.
And you didn't die.
Bob, and a great guide who's also a hero of the week, Skip. I don't know Skip's last name though.
His name's Chip.
Chip. I don't know his first name either, evidently. Damn. And Chip is
You called him Skip about 50
I did.
times. And
Well,
he
he's on a
smiled.
boat. It makes
Well,
sense.
and
I
he
mean,
either couldn't hear
and that's
me.
why I just let it
He-
slide every
I mean-
time.
He either couldn't hear me or he smiled politely. I don't know which, but
Yes.
Chip is an encyclopedia of history and nature of the Okefenokee. But my favorite part is when Jimmy and I ran across a 13-foot
It gets
alligator.
bigger every
It gets
day.
every time we talk about it.
Gains a foot every
and,
day.
and this alligator was a big boy, and he was not moving. He did not care.
He was fat and happy.
He was happy.
Ugh.
But
No
the
thanks.
Okefenokee Swamp, March 6th through the 8th, we went. We're going to go again. That's the hero of the week. And the last thing I'm instituting, a new thing, the hidden gem. I don't think our associates, I know our associates and staff don't listen to this podcast.
they all have, actually.
Not as of last night.
As of last night, I'm pretty sure all the staff had. And I think
I
three
know
really-
Tuscan hadn't because he
Oh,
admitted he
well,
had.
he-
So,
your
That's-
associate
that's-
has.
so
that's
I'm going
on
to throw
you.
something out there right now. The first one of our staff,
Sounds like a consanguinity issue.
first of our staff who comes and says, I heard your episode on grounds for divorce.
or
and-
any other episode.
No,
Right.
no, 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 no,
Well,
no,
we're not
no,
going to
no.
know this at this
This one
point.
No, no,
specifically.
okay.
Yeah, okay.
Don't
It has to
be-
be this one because we didn't
Are you
put
going
this
to
out
give him
there
a
yet.
Werther's?
Don't be messing. Shut up. Don't be messing this up. The first one of our staff who comes
Get the
to me
Werther's.
and says, "I listened to your podcast
Here's
on
a hard
grounds
candy,
for
lady."
divorce," and the hero of the week in that episode was the Okefenokee Swamp. I'm gonna give him $50 cash,
All right.
and we'll see if anybody.
Did Patty
We'll see
authorize
if-
that?
You know what's going to be awesome when you forget about this, because this podcast is going to come out in like 8 or 9 weeks, and then someone shows up in your office like, "Where's my $50? It was the Okefenokee."
I will not
Hand it
forget.
over.
I will not forget. All right, so
I can't
look,
wait to see it.
look.
First
last
one and
thing,
only one. Okay,
last
only one.
thing I'm
Yep.
going to say
We're
is
over time, man.
I know. I'm going to throw it out there. This is Shewmaker and Lewis, Lawyers Without Billboards. If anyone has a question about anything we talked about, my email is shewmaker@shewmakerlewis.com. Email me, and I'll be happy to talk to you.
And join us next time for the bacon tree joke.
Yeah.
Peace out.
Cool. Peace out.
That's it for this episode of Lawyers Without Billboards. If you found this episode helpful, make sure to follow and subscribe on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. For more resources or to get in touch with us, visit shewmakerandlewis.com. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.